Welcome viewers. This presentation is about the understanding of the mean arterial pressure and the total peripheral resistance. When total peripheral resistance goes up, how it increases the mean arterial pressure and vice versa. Let's have details to understand how it happens. These two concepts of total peripheral resistance and the mean arterial pressure, I found that the best way to interpret the mean arterial pressure and the total peripheral resistance is through the two things. We have to understand the diagram and equations. Let's first talk about the equation. Just for the recap or the memory, you know well, mean arterial pressure is equal to cardiac output multiplied by total peripheral resistance. And you know well, cardiac output is equal to heart rate multiplied by stroke volume. If we expand this equation, mean arterial pressure is equal to heart rate multiplied by stroke volume multiplied by total peripheral resistance. And the mean arterial pressure, you know, is the 2/3 of the diastolic pressure plus 1/3 of the systolic pressure. We will not discuss this type because we just want to say that we actually means that we are going to take the average of the diastolic pressure, and the average diastolic pressure is that it is in the aorta, and some of the systolic pressure as well. So it is the diastolic pressure in the mainly in the aorta, and the systolic pressure is as well. Okay, we'll not discuss this equation today. We'll discuss this mean arterial pressure, cardiac output, and the total peripheral resistance. Let's come up with the diagram. Suppose it is the main artery, it's the main vessels, it's the flow in, it's the flow out. Suppose 100 ml per volume or per unit blood is flowing through this main artery, main blood vessels, and the 100 ml is going out, means there is no change in the mean arterial pressure. There is no change in the mean arterial pressure. Now, another scenario is that if the flow is the same, that is 100 ml per unit, and the total, that is the resistance developed at the flow out of the blood, at the exit of this blood vessel, the resistance over here is called the total peripheral resistance or the peripheral resistance. If this resistance is increased, what will be happened? That the mean arterial pressure which is exerted on this wall of the vessels will be increased. This dotted line shows the increased in the mean arterial pressure. Means the blood flow is the same like that of the previous one, that is 100 ml per unit. If it is passing through this vessel, but the total peripheral resistance over here, the resistance at the end, at the outflow of this vessel is increased, what will be happened? The mean arterial pressure will exert the blood will exert the pressure on the wall of these vessels, that is called the mean arterial pressure. In the next scenario, what will be happen? If the cardiac output is increased at the start of this flow in, what will be had happened that mean arterial and the total peripheral resistance is the same as that of the previous one. Mean arterial pressure will be increased because the blood is coming more, because the cardiac output is more, the total peripheral resistance is the same, but the pressure over here will be increased due to the increased flow of the blood, increase incoming of the blood into the main vessel, that is the cardiac output will increased. Now come to another point. If the cardiac output is the same as that of the previous one, look at this arrow. Cardiac output is the same as that of the very previous one, is that of the previous one, that is the 100 ml per unit. What will be happen if the total peripheral resistance over here at the outflow of the blood vessel will be increased? In other words, we can say if you decrease the diameter of the blood vessel, the total peripheral resistance will be increased. What will be happened to this area, to the blood vessels? The mean arterial pressure will be more increased because the resistance at the outflow is also increased. Cardiac output is the same, that is 100 ml, but the resistance is increased, the mean arterial pressure will be increased. Now if you decrease the total peripheral resistance, then what happened to the mean arterial pressure? If you decrease the total peripheral resistance, the blood flow is the same, cardiac output is the same, the mean arterial pressure will be obviously decreased. Total peripheral resistance is decreased, mean arterial pressure will be decreased because total, due to the large opening, the total peripheral resistance is decreased. Now what happened in the next scenario? It is the equation, it is the main equation we will discuss later on. Increase mean arterial pressure, cardiac output and the total peripheral resistance. If the total peripheral resistance is increased at the outflow, the total peripheral resistance is increased, the mean arterial pressure will be increased. What will be another scenario? If the cardiac output is increased, the mean arterial pressure is also increased. If the cardiac output is increased, the mean arterial pressure will be increased. What will be happen to the total peripheral resistance? Cardiac output is increased and mean arterial pressure is increased. Whether it will be go down or go up, total peripheral resistance will be increased or decreased. It's not necessary that it will also be increased. Definitely it will not be increased, it will be decreased due to the body's sympathetic nervous system will increase the opening of the outflow. Here in this scenario you can check that mean arterial pressure is increased, cardiac output is increased, mean arterial pressure is increased, total peripheral resistance will be decreased. It will be clear in the next diagram, next equation. Suppose the heart rate is increased, mean arterial pressure is increased, stroke volume will be increased, total peripheral resistance will be increased or decreased? It will be decreased because it is not necessary. If the mean arterial pressure is increased and total peripheral resistance will be increased. So I already said, due to the sympathetic system of the body will increase the opening of the blood vessels at the outflow. So the stroke volume, as the stroke volume is going on increasing, heart rate is going on increasing, means cardiac output is going on increasing, mean arterial pressure will definitely be increasing, but the total peripheral resistance to maintain the body blood pressure will definitely, a sympathetic system will be opened, will be started, will be acting over here, and the total peripheral resistance will be decreased. As I mentioned in this diagram, the total peripheral resistance will be decreased as the cardiac output will be increased. Mean arterial pressure is increased, although the total peripheral resistance is over here is increased, but it is, if it is more increased, cardiac output is more increased, the mean arterial pressure will be increased at definitely at this stage, at this time. The opening will be large, the opening of the vessel will be large, and total peripheral resistance will be decreased. Now let's come up a question. A 24-year-old man has a mean arterial pressure of the 95 millimeter per mercury at rest. After swimming for 35 minutes, his mean arterial pressure is raised only to the 115 millimeter meter mercury mercury, and decreased in which component during the exercise accounts for? It is the question. Now come up. The mean arterial pressure at the rest is 95. Mean arterial pressure at the after the exercise is 115. The difference is 20 millimeter per mercury. What will be happened? Mean arterial pressure is going on increasing. Mean arterial pressure is going on increasing. Total peripheral resistance will be is going on decreasing, because here it's not, cardiac output is increasing, here the cardiac output is increasing, the mean arterial pressure will definitely be increased, that is the 20 millimeter per millimeter mercury. And as you already said, total peripheral resistance will be decreased due to the sympathetic activation of the nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system will be autonomic nervous system will be activated, and it will dilate these vessels, and the total peripheral resistance will be decreased. Hopefully you understand this concept. Thank you so much for the watching.